There's something almost mysterious about people who move through life quietly. They sit in rooms filled with conversation, yet they don't rush to add their voice. They watch, they listen, they absorb. And while the world may mistake their silence for shyness or disinterest, something else is happening beneath the surface. Quiet people often understand far more than they reveal. Their silence isn't empty space, it's a landscape of awareness. While others fill the air with quick reactions and half-formed opinions, the quiet ones are studying the room. They notice tone before words, emotions before explanations, and intentions before actions. They're not disconnected, they're deeply tuned in. You see, for someone who doesn't talk much, every word matters. Speech is not a reflex, it's a decision. They aren't withholding because they have nothing to say. They're holding back because they don't want to waste their voice on noise. They save their energy for moments that deserve it, for conversations that feel real, and for people who make safety feel possible. Silence, to them, is not a void, but a filter. It separates what's meaningful from what's hollow. It protects their peace from environments where chaos is celebrated. And it shields their inner world, a world rich with thought, emotion, imagination, and memory. If you've ever been the quiet one, you probably know this feeling well. You sense more than you speak. You connect more deeply than you show. And you often carry insights no one else even notices. Not because you're trying to be mysterious, but because your mind moves inwards before it moves outwards. But here's the truth most people overlook. Quietness is not a weakness. It's a form of wisdom, a steady kind of intelligence that doesn't need to announce itself, a calmness that lets you see through things others miss, a presence that doesn't need volume to be felt. Before the rest of the world judges the silence, the quiet person has already seen the full picture. Quiet people aren't silent because they lack thoughts. They're silent because they have too many. While most people speak as they think, quiet individuals think long before they speak. Their mind works like a layered system, analyzing not only what they want to say, but also how it might be received, what it might reveal, and whether it truly adds value. It's not hesitation, it's precision. Their brain scans the moment like a radar. Who's actually listening? What emotions are in the room? Is the conversation genuine or just noise? Is this a moment to speak or a moment to observe? This isn't overthinking. This is emotional intelligence at work. Psychologists have found that people who speak less often test higher in self-awareness and self-regulation. They don't fire off reactions. They filter them. They don't rush to fill silence. They let silence clarify what matters. For them, speaking is not an obligation. It's a choice. And that choice requires intention. Quiet people carry an internal world that's rich and often overwhelming. Memories, insights, worries, imagination, intuition. Trying to put all of that into words is like trying to pour the ocean into a cup. So they speak only when their thoughts have settled into something clear. Meanwhile, the world interprets their silence as discomfort or insecurity. But what most don't realize is that quiet people are processing more data than the average person ever notices. Every conversation is a mosaic. Tone, timing, facial tension, energy shifts, hidden motives. While others focus on words, the quiet mind is busy decoding the unspoken. This depth creates a rhythm of communication that doesn't match the speed of modern life. Society rewards fast answers, loud confidence, and constant opinions, yet quiet individuals operate on depth, not volume. They don't talk to fill space. They talk to convey truth. And here's the surprising part. The less they speak, the more powerful their words become. Because when someone rarely talks, you know they aren't wasting breath. Their voice carries intention, weight, and sincerity. Quiet people choose meaning over noise, and that choice changes everything. Quiet people live in a world where observation is their first language. While others jump into conversations, the quiet mind studies the scene, the tension in someone's jaw, the pause before a sentence, the subtle shift in energy when a new person enters the room. What looks like silence on the outside is actually rapid pattern recognition on the inside. They read the emotional atmosphere the way some people read books. It's not magic, it's sensitivity. Many quiet individuals fall into what psychologists call the highly sensitive person, HSP category, meaning their nervous system reacts more intensely to emotional and sensory input. They catch details that others overlook, the insincerity in a forced smile, the exhaustion hidden behind a cheerful voice, the discomfort someone tries to hide. This heightened perception shapes the way they communicate. They choose their words like an artist chooses colors, intentionally, sparingly, with care. And because they absorb so much from their surroundings, they often need silence the way others need air. Without it, the world becomes too loud, too sharp, too overwhelming. Stillness isn't their escape, it's their recharge. Introversion plays a role here too. Quiet people aren't necessarily afraid of social interaction. They're protecting their mental bandwidth. A loud room full of chaotic conversations drains them faster than a long day of work. They don't withdraw because they dislike people. They withdraw because they deeply feel people. And yet, this depth gives them a unique kind of power. When you can hear what isn't being said, you understand people more clearly. When you notice contradictions between someone's words and their energy, you see truth faster. When you sense emotional shifts before they're expressed, you navigate life with insight most never develop. This is why quiet individuals often make remarkable listeners, empathetic friends, and thoughtful partners. They aren't waiting for their turn to speak, they're absorbing your reality. They listen to understand, not to reply. And in a world where everyone seems to be talking over each other, this rare ability becomes a quiet form of strength. Stillness sharpens perception. Observation builds wisdom. And for those who speak few words, the truth is often clearest in the moments when nothing is said at all. Quiet people aren't always born quiet. Many of them become quiet, shaped by the environments they grew up in, the relationships they survived, and the moments where speaking up felt unsafe or pointless. Silence for them started as protection long before it became personality. Some learned early that raising their voice didn't change anything. Maybe the house was filled with people who talked over each other, or arguments that exploded instead of resolving. Maybe emotions were dismissed, misunderstood, or used against them. In those spaces, silence wasn't weakness. It was survival. So they learned to retreat into their mind, where thoughts were safer than words. And over time, this protective instinct evolved into what psychologists call adaptive silence, a habit formed when your nervous system realizes that saying less keeps you from being hurt, judged, or misunderstood. What begins as a shield eventually becomes an identity, the quiet one, the observer, the listener. But this silence isn't about shutting people out. It's about setting boundaries that the world never taught them how to express. They let fewer people in, not because they don't care, but because they've learned that vulnerability requires trust, and trust must be earned slowly. This creates a kind of emotional paradox. They crave connection, but fear misinterpretation. They want to be understood but dread being exposed. They long to share, but only when it feels genuinely safe. To others, this can look distant or withdrawn, but inside, quiet individuals are overflowing with thought and feeling. They simply refuse to hand their inner world to people who haven't proven they can hold it gently. And while this guarded nature can sometimes create loneliness, it also brings clarity. By speaking less, they filter out the people who only value noise. They attract those who appreciate depth, presence, and sincerity. The ones who don't demand performance, but welcome authenticity. Silence becomes their way of choosing who deserves access. Because, for a quiet person, opening up is not casual. It's sacred. It means the world if they choose to let you in, because behind their calm exterior is a history of moments that taught them silence was the safest place to be. But even so, beneath that quiet is a heart that still hopes to be heard, just by the right ears, at the right time, in the right way. Quiet people may move through the world softly, but the impact they leave is anything but small. They're the ones whose presence calms a room, whose listening makes others feel understood, and whose words, when they finally choose to speak, linger long after the conversation ends. Their voice may be gentle, but their influence is unmistakable. In a society that praises loudness, the quiet soul offers something far more valuable: depth. They're not interested in competing for attention or filling silence just to avoid awkwardness. They choose honesty over performance, meaning over noise, and authenticity over approval. And that choice gives their connections a rare kind of purity. When a quiet person opens up, they're not offering casual conversation, they're offering truth. Their thoughts have been filtered through reflection, empathy, and sincerity. Their emotions have been felt fully before being shared. This is why their words often strike deeper than the loudest speech. They speak from the inside out, not the outside in. But quietness can come with shadows too. Feeling deeply means hurting deeply. Seeing too much means carrying more than most people realize. And being misunderstood, something quiet, individuals experience often can feel like a loneliness that lives beneath the skin. Yet, despite all of this, their silence is not emptiness, it's intention. And intention is powerful. Stillness sharpens intuition. Reflection strengthens identity. Depth creates connections that most people never learn to experience. The quiet soul navigates life at a frequency the world rarely slows down enough to hear, but those who do hear it are forever changed. So if you're a quiet person, here is the truth you need to remember. You don't have to speak to be strong. You don't have to be loud to be seen. You don't have to explain your silence. It already speaks for you. The world may not always understand you, but it needs you. Your presence softens chaos. Your perception reveals the truth. Your empathy holds others together. Quiet as you are, you bring depth to a world obsessed with volume. Your way of connecting is not broken, it's rare. And rare things aren't meant to be loud. They're meant to be treasured. So keep your stillness. Keep your depth. Keep your quiet wisdom. Because sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones carried in silence, not shouted, not performed, but simply felt.